Hello everyone. The focus of my final project is the grammar construction of demonstrative determiners. This linguistic feature tends to pose several challenges to students of different L1s, and I chose this linguistic aspect of the English language because as an ESL student in high school, I often struggle to understand the difference between each of these demonstrative determiners. Also, the combination of all the aspects that they involve make them such a complex topic for English language learners overall. This project is a collection of activities and narratives that describe an implicit approach to teaching demonstrative determiners. And language proficiency is said to be intermediate, as this project calls for students to have a basic understanding of English syntax, as well as a basic vocabulary knowledge. The age of the students is intended to be, between 10 to 20 years old, as activities call for critical thinking and inductive reasoning. And studies have shown that students at this age tend to be more responsive to implicit instruction. Finally, the L1 of the students in question is Spanish, as some of the challenges that these constructions pose to students are particular to this language. We're going to talk about a little bit of the three-dimensional grammar teaching framework, and I'm using this framework because it's the one that we have learned in previous lessons, and because it highlights the different aspects that make these constructions complex. So first, in the first wedge, we have form, and so these demonstrative determiners are free morphemes that all begin with the morpheme the, which is by default already difficult for some Spanish speakers to pronounce. Also, the words this and these can be particularly difficult to distinguish for Spanish speakers due to the lack of the phoneme in Spanish. I know I had a lot of difficulty, pronouncing them, and I still have a little bit of difficulty, as you can tell. Let's go over the meaning wedge of this pie chart. And demonstrative determiners, like most determiners, have are more of a function words, right, than lexical meaning. However, they do not indicate the proximity. However, they do indicate the proximity of the noun in question with respect to the speaker. So there is some meaning associated to these words, especially the words this and these are used to point out nouns that are closer to the speaker, while that and those are used for nouns that are relatively far from the speaker. Also, demonstrative speakers agree with the plurality of the nouns in both instances of proximity. In Spanish, there exist some demonstrative determiners. However, these indicate usually 3 levels of distance as opposed to the 2 levels of proximity in English, which can already cause some confusion to the students. Finally, we have the use wedge of this division. And as stated by the name, these constructions demonstrate the proximity of a noun in question. Proximity in demonstrative determiners only refers to physical distance, though, as demonstrative pronouns deal with both physical and time distance. So these demonstrative determiners only focus on physical distance. It is also worth noting that the proximity of the noun with respect to the speaker is arbitrary, meaning that there is no convention to how close or how far an object has to be in order for the speaker to use a specific demonstrative determiner. However, in common practice, this and these are used to point out objects that are within reach, while that and those are used to point out objects that are not within immediate reach, but that are still within sight. Other constructions that describe proximity are adverbial phrases like right here or over there, which can be used in sentences like the books that are right here, which describes books that are in close proximity, or in sentences like the birds over there, which points out words that are far away from the speaker, but that are still within sight. So that's why in that use wedge we have those DD stands for demonstrative determiners versus over there or right there constructions, which are our verbal phrases. Okay, now let's move on to the activities, and I particularly chose the activities to be based on Ellis's consciousness raising approach to teaching grammar. And if you are part of the intro to ESL class with Dr. Christofferson, you learned a little bit about this approach, but it basically is just an approach that is inductive. So we use inductive reasoning to teach grammar. And this is an implicit method to teaching grammar in which students are exposed to real use of a linguistic feature. And in this case, demonstrative determiners, of course. And then they're asked to articulate the pattern of construction. So we're going to see the following activities which fall into this consciousness raising approach. And these are the steps to achieving that approach. So the first one is isolating the linguistic feature, which we already did. We isolated the demonstrative determiners. We're only focusing on that. Then, as we were going to see in the activities, we're going to expose the students to some authentic data. And then the students will implement some intellectual effort to analyze or discover the pattern of construction of these demonstrative determiners. And finally, they will articulate a grammar rule that describes the behavior of these constructions. So let's go to the first activity. The first activity consists of showcasing a short animated clip from Sound Grammar, which is a website that has a lot of resources for teachers, especially grammar resources. And so this video highlights the usage of demonstrative determiners in 3 different scenarios. And right here we only have the picture of conversation 1 and conversation 2. But basically these conversations take place between different speakers who point out different objects using demonstratives. And the students are asked to watch each clip, paying close attention to the movements of the speakers. So as they are pointing out the objects, as we can see, the students have to take pay close attention to the distance of the objects and the body language. And so the students are asked to get in groups and talk about these movements, talk about when certain words are used and how close are the objects. So it's all visual. Then we move on to activity 2, which is a discussion of the video. And so here the students will still remain in the small groups, and they will then talk amongst each other about what they noticed and formulate some conclusions, some conjectures, which will then be shared with the class. So the class is going to listen to all the different groups, and the instructor can guide these this discussion through the use of questions like the ones that I have here on the screen, which are examples like, what did you notice about the movement of the speakers? What objects were they describing? How did they refer to the objects? What words were used to describe these objects, etc. So these are just sample questions. And then we have the activity number 3, which is consists of the instructor giving students a transcript of the conversations from the video. And so the reason why is so that students can actually see the sentences and how the demonstrative determiners are being used. So also along with this, the transcripts, as we see here, the instructor is going to give them a series of questions, guiding questions like the ones that I have here on screen, that will prompt the students to really focus on the words around the determiners and the words around, the constructions of these demonstratives. So some of the questions here are: what kind of nouns are after this? Are they the same type of nouns that follow that? What kind of verbs are after that, etc. Finally, the students will actually articulate the rule. And now here I have like a fill in the blank sentences, but this is not usually what I would give the students. The students wouldn't be guided this way unless the specific group calls for it. But the goal here is for students to actually come up with these rules. And now I just pointed out here these rules as examples of things that students may say, but it's very important that the students do most of the work. That is what makes this lesson implicit. That's what makes this lesson use the inductive method. So this is it for my final project. I hope y'all liked it, and I had a lot of fun coming up with this project. Thank y'all.